I'm Alex Peters, and I'm a sophomore at Sarah Lawrence College, and I study psychology, and I'm very interested in child and adolescent development.
I'm Kim Ferguson, and I teach developmental psychology, cognitive psychology, African studies, pretty much all of those came together in the year-long course you took with me, the ecological context of child development. We first met during interview week. I remember you really well because you were so enthusiastic.
I was specifically interested in child development at the time and decided I wanted to focus on. It's not so much U.S. development, child development in the U.S., but in different contexts also. Your class was my very first psychology class. I focused my conference work on Sesame Street in two separate ecological contexts. I showed parents one episode of Sesame Street in South Africa and one episode of Sesame Street in the US and gathered their reactions from both. And the Sesame Street South Africa tape was primarily focused on AIDS, helping children in South Africa understand that you can be friends with these kids and you can touch them and you won't catch AIDS. This is a huge problem in South Africa. And it turned out that the parents here at the ECC were rather appalled that we had these that we had these teachings anywhere.
What age were you looking at?
They were three to five. Yeah, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
They were young, and the tape in South Africa was meant for 3 to 5 year olds in South Africa also. So the parents thought that this was completely inappropriate and should not be shown, especially here in the US.
My big worry when you're trying to compare tapes was how are we going to find something that's as controversial as AIDS or as serious of a thing to talk about with children. And of course you picked the episode with the fire.
Elmo gets a lesson on firefighting. Elmo's caught in a fire and the fireman comes and Elmo's terrified. He almost has the symptoms of a PTSD.
It's very interesting, yeah.
He comes out shaking and trembling and won't talk to anyone. And since firefighters in the US are, you know, the ultimate symbol of heroism, I showed this and, you know, the reactions I got from the parents were, fires are absolutely crucial to teach your children about.
When I watched those two videos, I was kind of appalled because, of course, I didn't grow up with the same sort of association between the fire department and all of that. Because I caught myself actually catching what.
Absolutely.
So my judgment, whereas talking about AIDS to me was, well, of course you have to do that. But when you are a cultural psychologist, you know that your own perspective influences the sort of work you do.
So this semester, I'm working at a hospital in White Plains. I'm working in the psychiatric adolescent unit with children or adolescents from 11 to 17. So we have mood disorders, we have conduct disorders, aggression, PTSD, even abuse, bipolar, everything that you can imagine. So I really get a lot of time to spend with each child. I'm actually requested to sit and talk with the patients so that I can find out more about their home environment, their friend situation, you know, how they're feeling. And my feedback goes to the doctors. You know, if a child starts talking or saying some things that might be a little provocative to a doctor, I feel more comfortable with me since I don't have a white coat or, you know, carry the title and, you know, I'm not very menacing.
No, not so much.
They tend to be really open. The thing I like most about it is that I actually feel needed. You know, I feel like these doctors need the volunteers to be there and work with the children so that they can fully understand their case.
Yeah, I think that is really important, but also I think you found that you want to do more clinical work where you work directly with the children, you talk through their issues, you understand all of their background, like you're talking about, their whole context of what they're experiencing.
Exactly.
The Early Childhood Center, I think, is a really wonderful resource for students who want to study children or psychology or development in general, right? That was actually one of the big things that drew me to teaching at Sarah Lawrence, because when I was an undergraduate, I never saw a child. This is very unusual for a small college to be able to do this sort of thing.
The first thing I did when I got to Sarah Lawrence after signing up for a psychology class was to sign up for a teacher assistant position at the ECC. You actually get to interact with the children absolutely hands-on and learn so much.
It's a really wonderful space to do work with children, for me, for my own research, but also in developing research with students so that you're actually able to study children and watch children rather than just read about them in a book.
I am currently enrolled in Introduction to Muslim Thought and Culture, and it's a lecture that goes through the history of Islam up until today. And it's with Kristen Sands. I wanted to study on child development in Africa, and now because of Kristen's class, I've kind of diverged into the Middle East.
I'm really glad you're looking at the Middle East, because there's really a need for research, especially the sort of things that you're looking at.
Last year was my first year at Sarah Lawrence, and I signed up for first-year studies in sociology. I do not regret taking this sociology class, but I did not get along with my Dawn.
Yeah.
And as a result, I requested a new Dawn, which was you. Now you are able to guide me in all sorts of directions for grad school, for abroad programs, for conference work. Being able to talk to professors every week or every other week is a huge benefit.
It's wonderful for us too, because the papers you write are actually very interesting to us. I teach my courses really as though I was teaching a graduate course in terms of the sort of work I expect from you guys. You read the primary research literature, you really do your own searches through the databases, and when I read your papers, honestly, it really is like reading someone else's work in a journal.
Sometimes I forget when I'm talking to my friends from other schools that we have a completely different program here. The ability to completely develop and then present my own research was something very, very exciting for me, and that's what I love most about Sarah Lawrence.